conference realignment is not new to us here in Big 12 country, or should I say, Missouri Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Association country, or Missouri Valley Conference, or Big 6, or Big 7, or Big 8, or Big 12, or the Big 12 -2 at 10 teams, and then a Big 12 with 14 teams. It gets confusing. It does, but it's not new to us. And isn't it ironic that a team that originally got denied entry into the Big 12 and a team that has been nothing but a massive problem for everybody involved since they've entered are the teams leaving? So basically what this boils down to is if you're an Oklahoma State fan, you're going to love this episode. If you're a Big 12 fan, you're going to love this episode. If you're a Big 8 fan, you're going to love this episode. If you're a Big 12 fan of the new teams coming into the conference, you're going to love this episode. If you're an OU and Texas fan, you should love this episode, but oh, yeah, that's right. Nobody cares if you love this episode or not.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, as well as visually on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at Aldeo State. I do encourage you to do so. We're on the road to 750 subscribers here on the channel. We're on the road to 2,000 on Twitter. We're very close to both, and it's because of you guys. So I greatly appreciate all of the feedback. And as we continue to get ready for this season, obviously conference realignment is a hot topic. And this new round of conference realignment, it's even more ironic, especially when you take into consideration the talk of, again, what I firmly believe to be an inevitability in Colorado, Arizona State, and most likely Utah joining the Big 12. And for some of those schools, it's kind of a circling the wagons moment. So other than the basic knowledge that people have of the Big 12, I wanted to dive a little bit further back because we are welcoming 4 new members this season in football, and everybody's pretty daggone excited about it. So all of you coming into Big 12 country, welcome. What this is a conference that has been through the woodwork as far as realignment goes. So originally, this conference was put together in 1907, and it was named the Missouri Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Association. It was originally with KU, Mizzou, Nebraska, and then Washington University in St. Louis that ended up being something else, and Iowa University, ironically enough, the Iowa Hawkeyes. But Iowa was a little bit different because they came in under like a dual partnership type thing where they could still house some sports in what would end up being the Big Ten. And in 1911, they ended up leaving the Big 8, Big 6, Missouri Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Association, whatever you want to call it. And they officially stuck with what would later become the Big Ten. And then in 1996, there was a dissolvement of the conference. But the dissolvement of the conference in 1996 actually led to more teams joining in. And the whole thing has been very, very interesting. I mean, some of the storylines, even if you think back to like 1908, when Drake and Iowa Ag College were brought in, obviously Iowa Ag College would end up being Iowa State University. But they joined the conference along with Iowa. And then again, Iowa leaves in 1911 to be part of the Western Conference, which ended up being the Big Ten. And then Kansas State joined the conference in 1913. Nebraska flip-flopped here and there, right? Occasionally, they flirted with the idea of going completely independent somewhere around the 1920s range. And Oklahoma A&M, which is Oklahoma State University, would join in 1925. But the irony is OU applied with Grinnell College in like 1919, and they got denied application. And then obviously they got in the next year, and then we followed, and we were in the conference in 1925. We actually bounced around a little bit as well, right? We went to what was called the Missouri Valley Conference for a while. We went to another conference that had like Illinois associations in it. So we have bounced all around, as is the conference in and of itself. And it's taken many new lenses to look at the growth of the conference. Like, even if you're going back to 1928 when Nebraska joined, and they flirted with the idea of calling it the Big Six Conference. And when that happened, Oklahoma State left, which was Oklahoma A&M, and then we came back around the fold. And it was just this back and forth battle up until 1947. And then we stole the University of Colorado, which was in the Mountain States Conference, which is also more affectionately referred to as like the Big Sky Conference from back in the day. And one of the ironic things about that is one of the original, the founding schools for the Big Sky Mountain States Conference was BYU, Colorado State, Denver, Utah. And so to see all of this, again, the full circle moment, knowing that those teams are most likely going to be in the new Big 12 after what they went through in their process of being a conference, it's actually pretty cool to connect all the dots, right? And then in 1964, we were awarded the official acronym of the Big 8 Conference, and we signed a little bit of a partnership, right? And in the early 90s, what was known as the football subdivision, Division 1A, we were part of what was called the College Football Association, and everybody was a part of that, right, including the Big 8 members. And then we took on the Southwest Conference, and that formed the new Big 12. There was a Supreme Court decision in like 1984, and they used this as the precursor to have other colleges negotiate their own TV contracts, right? The CFA was designed to help do that. And then some people started splintering off from that, first being the SEC. So go figure, right? There's a lot of this commonality that ties in that I think is really cool for the sport. I think it's really cool for the teams coming in, and just the historical connotations that it holds, to me, shows why the Big 12 is going to continue to be, because we've been around since 1907. And then after, we ended up adding, right, the other schools in 1994, Baylor, A&M, Texas, and Texas Tech. That was then the Big 12. And from the very beginning, there was problems with Texas. OU is OU, right? They do have a lot of historical stuff to lean on, so they do that. And it is what it is. Good for them. But from the original get-go, right, where the game was played, which the conference championship game was played in Kansas City, and then it was moved to Texas after those schools were joined. Texas was getting more publicity and money. OU was getting more publicity and money. And at the time, Nebraska was a superpower, and Colorado was actually very, very, very good. So they all felt like, Texas was causing too much crap and getting too much crap for accomplishing next to a whole lot of nothing in the eyes of what some of the other schools have been able to do. So it was fair and it was accurate. The problems that Missouri ended up having and Colorado ended up having and Nebraska and Texas A&M, it all stemmed from the greed and the stuck-up nature that the University of Texas and OU took. And again, it's ironic that OU gets denied in 1919 and then eventually accepted back in, but they're part of the problem now, just like Texas is part of the problem now. And all of this leads to me saying, this is why the Big 12 is going to continue to get better. This is why the Big 12 is going to continue to grow and solidify itself as not only the number 3 conference in all of America, but the conference that legitimately has the opportunity to nip at the heels of the Big 10. You cannot tell me there's a talent gap between the Big 10 and the Big 12 because it doesn't exist. You can tell me there's a financial gap. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But in Brett Yormark, we trust. We're going to continue to chop down the trees and make the Big 12 the most viable conference of anybody left, right? The SEC is what it is. The Big 10 is what it is. We're all fighting for supremacy to be number 3 right now, okay? And the Big 12 clearly is number 3. And I say all this just to let everybody know the problems of the conference they're gone. I do understand that takes away the blue blood acronym away from the conference. But winning cures all. TCU proved last year that this conference, top to bottom, prepares you for a lot of things. I think our schedule and this team and everything I'm seeing, it prepares us for a massive season. But when somebody says that they're happy that Texas and OU are leaving the conference, it's not because they're butthurt. It's because they've watched OU and Texas destroy the conference. I mean, watching their historical runs were great. Seeing what OU was able to accomplish in their historical time in the Big 12, great. But this is not new for us. We're built for this. And it's not going to change. It's not going to go anywhere. We're not magically just going to get worse, especially when you factor in the new teams that are going to come. And I don't give a 13 hoots what you see or hear involving anything Pac-12 related, right? It's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. This is an inevitability. And it's so fun to connect the dots. It's also so fun to typically put yourself in a position where you could potentially make some dollar bills, y'all. So you should probably go download FanDuel, especially since NBA playoffs are right here. And playoffs are always a very cool time to make some money and to do some bets, and it keeps you a little bit more engaged. But right now, our new customers get our no sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. I've told you all over and over again, you got to be prepared for whenever the spreads and everything come out and the over-unders for Oklahoma State, because you're going to bet the over, you're going to make some money, and you're going to thank me later. It is what it is. But again, go download FanDuel right now, because there's no better place to place your bets and get involved in any playoff action. That's why it's number one sportsbook in America. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get yourself hooked up on this no sweat first bet. Again, it's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not win. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Again, that is FanDuel.com/lockedon. The official sportsbook partner of the NBA needs you to get it hooked up. So go ahead and do that. All right, now we get to circle onto a little bit more of the Oklahoma State side of things. We all have our favorite memories of being an Oklahoma State fan, and this involves your participation. I want you to comment down below, what was your favorite moment at Oklahoma State University, and was it simultaneously the same moment that made you fall in love? For me, it pretty much is. But at the end of the day, all of us have different moments, different times, different stories that made us the fans that we are. And we always like, going back in time. So for me, it was 1997. We were going to games, early on in the early 90s, mid 90s. But 97 is the first season we got season tickets. And wouldn't you know it, if we don't start the year a perfect 6-0, which we hadn't done since like 1964. And it was the best conference start since 1988. First time we made a bowl game since 1988. And 1988, everybody remembers that was Barry Sanders' Heisman Trophy winning season. But after that, right, we got hit with the probation stuff, and it hurt us quite a bit. And it took us a decent amount of time to recover. Matter of fact, a lot of people tend to forget that Jimmy Johnson was our coach for a while, because it was kind of around that same kind of time frame. But 97 was it for me. R.W. McQuarters was the GOAT for me at Oklahoma State University. And I'll tell you, the game that really, really, really put it over the top for me was the 1997 double overtime loss to Mizzou. Like, I'm gonna link the YouTube video of the 1997 season. I remember getting that VHS in the mail after the season was over. And the Alamo Bowl trip was absolutely phenomenal, getting to play Purdue in the moment that we were there. R.W. McQuarters, again, If you go back and watch anything from 1997 highlights, Arden McQuarters is all over the place. So he is my number one bucket list that I want to get on the show. That's my cry. That's my plea to y'all. Other than helping we continue to knock out these markers with the subscribers and Twitter and all that fun stuff. If anybody out here can help me get into contact with Mr. R.W. McQuarters, that would mean the world to me, because he's the GOAT visually for me. I didn't get to watch Barry actually physically do it on the field. I didn't get to watch Thurman actually do it on the field. Watching David Thompson was pretty daggone cool. Watching Jamal Fobbs was fun. Actually, Nathan Simmons wasn't a bad running back. I do give him a lot of grief because he was put in oftentimes in situations that didn't need to happen, because Jamal Fobbs had already successfully driven us down the field in a bunch of different ways. And having Les Miles as the offensive coordinator, you saw some of the fun stuff that we were able to do. You saw the emergence of a really athletic Tony Lindsay. You did see Chris Halupka come in and launch the rock every now and again, but just like that Missouri game, right? He did. He came in, Chris Halupka came in, threw a couple really nice passes, and then threw a pick and put us backwards. That was a game that Alonzo Mays proved why he was a bad A All-American. Sean Love had a lot of really cool moments. Jamal Fobbs was better, in my opinion. He should have played a little bit more than Nathan Simmons, but Nathan Simmons had his moments. Kevin Williams was a dude on defense. Jamal Williams was a dude on defense. I remember after that Mizzou game, no, it was before the Mizzou game, after the Colorado game, that Kenyatta Wright came walking to the tunnel and gave me and my brother his wristbands. I've kind of covered that before. We lit up like Christmas trees, man. So I'll always remember Kenyatta Wright for that, but I'll never forget R.W. McQuarters till the day that I die. Not even to mention the fact that he's now in the Hall of Fame in Oklahoma. Not to mention the fact that he's got a Super Bowl with the Giants. Not to mention the fact that there were coaches in the NFL that were salivating over, what he was able to do in his transition from the 49ers to the Lions, to the Giants. There was NFL coaches that legitimately talked about making sure they had him on their roster because he was an integral part in the success, especially with the Chicago Bears. And it was really cool to see him back in those colors. I know the Chicago Bears are like a dark navy blue. I get it. But realistically speaking, it pretty much is black and orange. And it was fun to watch. Everybody remembers the Giants Super Bowl, the David Tyree crazy helmet catch. Well, that was also when the Patriots got beat by an R.W. McQuarters interception to end the game. They were driving down the field, and R.W. McQuarters put an end to it. He kiboshed what could have been another great Tom Brady, New England Patriot style moment. But again, tell me what that moment was for you. Because 1997, hook, line, and sinker. That was the year that completely changed everything for me. I was already an O State fan. I already knew that R.W. McQuarters was my favorite player from early in the season. But that guy by himself, he's number one all time in some Big 8 punt return, kick return stats. He's number one all time in some Big 8 punt return, kick return stats. He's top 5 all time in some of the interception type defensive stats for the Big 8. See, this is why I tied in some of the Big 8 stuff, because the dude was an absolute animal. And it's fun when you go look at some of the historical data points for Oklahoma State guys. And in the Big 12, a lot of names pop up, like Justin Gilbert, right? He's number one in some Big 12 categories on return, as is somebody like Paris Cox. Paris Cox shows up all over the place. I even saw Albert Craig on there in some of the defensive categories for the Big 8, Big 12 type stuff. But that solidified it for me. That was the time that I knew I was a diehard O State fan. Absolutely beating the doors off of OU 30-7 to beat them 2 of the last 3 seasons. That was amazing. For all the grief, I guess you could say, that Les Miles catches, he was part of the resurgence of Oklahoma State Cowboy football. And none of it happens without the success of the 97 season. So I think that's all we got for this one. You guys let me know. Again, fill the comments up and let's kind of talk there about your favorite moments as a Cowboy fan and what solidified it for you. Because be prepared to welcome back Colorado. Be prepared to welcome in Arizona State. I think we should be prepared to welcome back Utah, even though I can't stand them. I'd rather have San Diego State, but it is what it is. Kind of cool for Colorado to come to the Big 12 to get hooked back up with some of their original partners in BYU and Utah. There's so many storylines that make this fun. This season is going to be a hoot and a half. And I'm all for it. So make sure we get this out there. I want some of the involvement from the new Big 12 people as well. Drop down below. What are you most excited for in the new Big 12? What is your destination trip? I know for us, a lot of O State fans, a lot of Big 12 fans, Provo, Utah is a destinational place to go watch a game. Fortunately for us, this season, they have to come to Stillwater to end the year, which definitely could be a very big game. It could lend itself to be, I don't want to say monumental, but it could have a lot of Big 12 implications on the line. Because as I said, bet the over. 9-10 wins. Please tell me I'm crazy. Tell me how I'm crazy. Because it's way too logical. And again, OU in Texas. Nobody's butthurt about them leaving. Everyone's pretty excited because they have been the primary cause of the instability in the Big 12 since, I don't know, what was it, 1947? 1964? Colorado, Nebraska, everybody's building up to this crescendo of the Big 8 into the Big 12. And almost immediately, Texas wants favoritism. Texas wants this. Texas wants that. OU, their status, they wanted their status to be held above Nebraska as much as physically possible because that was their biggest rival at the time. And supposedly some of the Big 8 did kind of cater that way, or the Big 12. And that's what led to 2010 Nebraska leaving, 2011 Mizzou, A&M, Colorado. I think if you had a do-over, you'd have kicked Texas out a long time ago. If you had to choose between A&M, Nebraska, Colorado, or OU, if you look back, maybe we attached ourselves to the wrong horse and it caused a lot of problems. But it also lets you know we're 100% built for this. Big 12 ain't going nowhere. All right, y'all. That's all we got for this one. I love you all. As always, God bless. Go Pokes. And until the next one, where we break down the schedule, I'll see y'all later. All right.